All right, good afternoon. This is another edition of the Wallace Way Show, and we are honored and blessed to have a special guest, Miss Aditi, and she is backstory. We met it's about 12 years ago.
It's been a while.
It's been a while through a mutual friend, so we were kind of like all in different spots in our lives. But this powerful sister is doing some really big things. Let me read a little quick bio about her. So Aditi is a motivational speaker, coach, trainer, helping professionals learn the importance of building personal strength to conquer obstacles on the path to achieving goals. She speaks on topics of building confidence, overcoming burnout, and taking brave actions. She has been featured in Forbes, Thrive, and other worldwide media. So this is an honor and a blessing. And thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you so much for having me.
Awesome, awesome. So let's hop right into it. Tell us about stress. Give me a few points on stress because we all go through it and we all got it, and it affects us all differently. So tell the people about stress.
Yeah, absolutely. So, stress really has to do with those moments in time where our body is in alert mode. It believes it's in danger, it's in fight or flight. You feel an intense rush of emotions in your body. And I find that we generally have different intensity levels. It could be a low level of stress, it could be a high level of stress. And we all interact with stress differently. And, in some ways, it actually helps us, and in other ways it hinders us. So I really like to talk about how we can actually shift our relationship with stress so we can use it to help us with direction in our life rather than a distraction. So that's a lot of the work that I do, because I realize that we haven't been taught how to navigate or manage stress in school, at
Mm,
work, at home, really anywhere. And it is one of the most intense emotions we feel as humans, yet there's not really tools on how to deal with it. So that's a lot of the work that I do around it.
awesome, awesome. Yeah, it's everyone has it. Every time you go to the doctor, they're like, and so you're under stress, and you're like, yeah, I guess. I mean, it's just like almost like part of the day, almost.
It
So
really is. It really is. And that's another thing I talk about is we don't actually know when we're stressed. So a part of my story is that when I was 20 years old, actually half of my face got paralyzed.
I was going to get into the Bell's palsy thing. Go and dig in that.
Exactly. So the doctor told me exactly that. It happened due to stress. And I was just like, what do you mean? And I was in the emergency room, and literally my eye was not blinking. I could
Mm,
not use this side of my nose or this side of my mouth. And I often talk about how I couldn't even grasp my lips around a glass. Like I couldn't do this.
wow, that's got to be some scary stuff.
It was very
Like,
scary.
yeah.
And I like normal everyday functions, like I couldn't do. Like even when you're brushing your teeth and you spit out, right?
Hmm,
I
hmm.
couldn't do that. And I was like, whoa, like, I didn't even think about, like, how much I took that
For granted.
for
Yeah.
granted, exactly. So during that time, I learned of how your what's happening inside of you can literally show up on the outside of you. And that was pretty scary. And that's kind of what started my journey into kind of understanding stress. But there was definitely a period where I kind of veered off of it because it is so normal. Just like you said,
Yeah.
it's so normalized that none of us know when we're stressed. And it's almost like revered in a way to be busy, to be
Yes. Yep.
occupied, to have a full schedule, and I think that I kind of just fell into that with everyone else. But at some point it would always come to some sort of breaking point where I was like, I'm hitting burnout, or I'm feeling overwhelmed, and I'm just finding that I'm not able to function at my best. And then I would remember how I had Bell's palsy, and I'm like, whoa, I never want to let that happen again to me. So it's like it always brings me back to this conversation, and now I do this work full time, which I never thought I'd be doing. But I just think it's such an important topic and conversation. And I feel like I'm happy to contribute in this way, having had gone through that myself. Like, I don't want people to wait until they hit a crisis to
Right,
start
right.
paying attention. There are preventative measures to help you prevent burnout, help you manage your stress better, help you meet yourself where you are. Often when we're stressed, we kind of want to escape it. We
Mm,
want to escape ourselves. We want to escape the situation. We want to escape our bodies. And this is very normal, right? Because it's just uncomfortable to feel uncomfortable emotions.
right,
But
right.
I really talk about, becoming more familiar with the different range of emotions that we experience as humans. None of these emotions are bad or wrong. They're simply part of the human
They they
experience.
part of right. It's the package. It's it's you making a pot of gumbo, and it's just a couple of spices, maybe the shrimp. It all fits into the pot, basically.
Exactly. So if we can embrace the full experience, because when we resist it, it just ends up getting bigger. When
Right,
we
right.
resist it, what do they say? When you resist, it persists.
There you go.
So I find that really to be true. I actually just met somebody last week and I had shared my story and he's like, "Oh my God, I actually had Bell's palsy too." And he's
Wow.
like, "The doctor told me I was stressed, but I didn't feel like I was stressed. I didn't know what he was talking about." And I was like, My point exactly.
Yeah.
We don't know when we are stressed. And, the point when I had Bell's palsy, I was actually very sad about something going on in my personal life.
Mm,
And I was crying myself to sleep.
wow. So
And
it
I
all
didn't
kind of
tell
just
anyone.
yeah, it just started building up,
It
right?
started building up. And I didn't know my sad emotions were creating stress in my body. You
That's
know, I didn't make that connection.
no, that's and that's so powerful. And I'm sure every your practice, you see so much of that going on. So I wonder, you touched on a word burnout, and we hear that sometimes. Unpack that for me. What exactly is that, and how do we kind of see where it's coming from and kind of get around it?
Yeah, burnout really has to do with us having overworked past our limits. Like we've gone past our ability and our capacity, and it's kind of like working on empty, being depleted,
Mm,
having very low energy levels or none, being in the negative rather than in the positive in terms of energy. I like the phrase filling up your cup because I think a lot of people understand that metaphor. It's like we have to fill up our cup first. So when you're burnt out, you're like negative underneath, like into the ground.
your
Like
cup
you're
is
literally
broken.
burning through the ground.
Right, right. No, because it's funny. Growing up, the Washington football team, they were the Redskins when I was growing up, cheering for them. And the coach Joe Gibbs actually retired because he said he was burned out. Like literally, he had no more to give. He would sleep at the facility. His alarm clock was the trash people coming in with the backing up, beeping the horn. So he burned himself out. So it was. I never really heard that word until he did that, and
Okay.
that's pretty intense. So you know what? I want to touch on those self-care tips. I saw your latest release, and on your YouTube channel, and everyone go visit and subscribe to that. It's great stuff in there. It had the self-care tips for the new year, and it was three of them. Can you unpack those for me?
Absolutely. One of the main things is really being aware of how you are feeling.
Mm,
And I think that that is such a simple thing, yet we don't do it at all. It's like our schedule is more important than how we're feeling. Our obligations, our commitments are
mm,
more important than how we're feeling. So I invite everyone to simply just ask yourself this simple question is, how am I feeling right now? That's
okay.
it. How am I feeling right now? And this question can give you the answers to allow you to be able to navigate the rest of your day. Because when we're pushing past our limits, we're going by, how we think we should be acting, how we think we should be doing things. And then that's how we end up overworking because one, we're not in tune with our we're also not able to honor how we're feeling because we're not in tune with ourselves. So checking your energy levels just by asking how you're feeling right now can make a huge, huge difference
Hmm.
in just allowing you to be like, all right, my energy levels are dropping. Sometimes, and now the more I do this work, I can feel it. Like I'm like, oop, I feel my energy levels dropping. I think it's time to take a break. So in the beginning, it's going to be a little bit of a foreign concept,
Right.
but as you do it more, you'll be able to notice it more. And it really is a matter of awareness with yourself. And because, like we talked about, we don't know when we're stressed. So this allows you to like know and be like, okay, maybe, and there's certain activities that are draining more than others. It's funny, I wrote an article on burnout yesterday
Okay.
and I was feeling burnt out from writing it.
Pot calling the kettle black, right?
Yeah, because like I guess, certain energies, certain activities use more of your energy. So you have to just kind of look at that. Like maybe you want to, after you have a more draining activity, you want to have a certain kind of break afterwards, or maybe you want to do more of the draining stuff in the beginning of the day when you have more energy, or
Right,
whenever
right.
you have more energy. Some people have more energy at nighttime. So like doing those things in your most optimal times. So that's one of the main things. And then a second one is taking intentional joy breaks.
Yeah, that
Um,
that that was the one that really I keyed in on that because I was like, that's so interesting. Tell me more about that.
Yeah, so I feel that, we're in this society where we're just always working and we're not really tuning into ourselves and paying attention to what we want and what we want to create. And I think that contributes to the burnout and depletion because we're not filling up our cup. So I believe these intentional joy breaks are help you recharge and fill up your breaks. Um, fill up your cup, sorry. And you may have heard of, the Con Marie method and the whole show where she talks about like, does this item give you joy? If not, throw it out.
Oh,
You know?
I've definitely heard that. My wife on the Marie Kondo spurge, and now my
Yes.
socks are everywhere, and I don't even know what's going on. Oh,
Exactly, exactly. So, but concept is more about, which activities bring you joy, what brings you peace.
mm,
So, for example, and a lot of people may not even know. So, this requires you to do a little bit of that self discovery work. Is like maybe think about, okay, well, what does give me joy? Or just observing your week and notice which things that you're doing create some more peace in you or give you some more energy. For me, I know walking in nature does that for me. It recharges me.
mm,
And there's scientific evidence that shows that being in nature, it does, it does recharge you. And adult coloring books are a great, because they help you kind of blow off steam, be a little creative. Maybe you like to sing or play a guitar, or maybe you like to dance, whatever that is, but just 10 minutes or less
right.
of a joy break.
That
I
that
recommend doing 10 a day, but
10,
if
wait,
that just
10
feels,
joy breaks a day?
huh, 10.
Wow. Okay.
So if that feels overwhelming and you're like, okay, that's just insane, start with one.
Okay.
Just one 10-minute joy break, and it could even be you people watching, but,
Mm,
like, no devices, no nothing, you wanna put all of that away for your 10-minute break. Um, and it could even like, sometimes your 10-minute break could, include listening to a podcast or something, but I recommend that all of your breaks are not with a device. At least some of them should be, like, no device at all, because really, devices burn us out more than we realize.
oh, we're attached to those. That is so dope. I love that idea of a joy break. Now 10, I'm gonna work on, but I'm gonna try to do at least three. Three, I'm gonna start with three, then try to build myself up, if you will.
And you can even put them together, like, if I go on a 30-minute walk, like, I'll count that as 3, but you don't wanna do all of them together, you do
Right,
wanna space it out through the
break
day.
it up.
But yeah, like, and anyways, they say you should stand up once an hour, so even if you stood up once an hour and just walked for 10 minutes, like, you
That's
know?
dope. I love that. That is dope. So I know we're pressed for time, so just a couple more things, then we can roll up out of here. Um, So let's see. We all know 2020 was crazy, right? And the area where I'm in now is just super crazy with the political and all that stuff. Moving forward, how should we attack stress in this stressful time? This is quite possibly one of the most stressful times in human history. Well, I wasn't around for all of human history, but the last 20 years, right? So
Right, right.
what are like some steps we should do to kind of like curtail all that?
Really pay attention to how you're feeling and honor it. I
Mm,
think that
mm,
that itself can be so profound because as a society, we aren't really taught to honor how we're feeling. Feelings are always kind of pushed aside for other things. But when stress is affecting your decision making, the work you're producing, how you're showing up in the world, it's time to start paying attention to your feelings. It's affecting your entire life. It's affecting the results that you're creating in your life. So when you can just tune in and, just simply naming the emotion, there are studies that show just naming the emotion reduces your stress.
what do you mean naming the emotion?
If you can just identify the emotion that you're feeling, for example, stress is kind of a general overarching feeling, right?
Okay.
Stress can come from sadness, anger, overwhelm,
Mm,
disappointment, right?
mm,
There's so many human emotions. So
right.
overall stress, like we know when we're feeling unsettled, right? Something
Mhm,
is just off. But if we can actually identify it, like for example, that time when I had Bell's palsy, I was in deep sadness and I wasn't acknowledging it and I was aware of it, but I was avoiding it. I was in resistance. So I
mm,
wasn't honoring it. And if I wasn't honoring it, it ended up exploding in my life somewhere else.
wow.
Right? So if you can actually honor that, okay, I am feeling really sad right now. I am feeling really stuck right now. I'm feeling overwhelmed. I'm feeling disappointed. I'm feeling angry, right?
Mm,
Especially the things we're seeing in the news,
yes,
things
right.
that are happening in the world. We just have to acknowledge that this is difficult and that's
Mm,
okay. It's okay to have difficult emotions and it's okay to say that you're struggling. It's okay to even just admit it to yourself. Even if you don't tell anyone else, you just admitting it to yourself
mm.
moves the process along.
I love it. That is super dope. Aditi, listen, we're pressed for time. I know you got to get going. Well, you got to come back on because we got more to dig into, more stress, more
Yes,
anxiety stuff that we all got to go through and figure out. But I want you to plug everything in your website, your YouTube channel, plug all that right now, and then we can get up out of here.
for sure. So my YouTube channel is Life Beyond Stress with Aditi. You can find my Instagram right there, Aditi Creative.
Mhm.
And my website is aditispeaks.com. And I'm actually bringing stress management talks to groups and companies. So if you ever feel like it would be a great fit for your group, feel free to reach out.
Definitely, definitely. Oh man, it's a pleasure catching up with you. We gotta do it not next 12 years, okay? Like before that, all right?
Sooner than that, for sure.
Definitely sooner, but definitely thank you so much for this. Really appreciate it. And we definitely look forward to chatting with you again, all right?
Awesome. Thank you for having
Yep.
me.
Peace.